Oh! Oh my gosh! No! Actually, that's fine. Oh no! Oh wait, we have bushwhack. Yes! Yes! What?
Oh yeah.
5 cats.
5 cats. Okay. Maybe your cats are using the internet.
I love you, Annie.
Today, we are joined by horror aficionado and Twitch and Discord partner streamer Gothixmodel. Gothic, thank you for joining us.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Now, you've had a really strong 2019 so far. How's it going on your end?
A little bit chaotic, at times very overwhelming, but like, I don't know.
That's really great to hear. I mean, let's go on a little bit with people. What has your 2019 been like so far? I mean, you just became a Twitch partnered streamer. How is this impacting your content's performance?
Yeah, so just to like give a little background, I quit my job in December. Been doing full-time streaming since January. Since January up until now, I've got partnership with like, you know, Discord, Twitch, Streamlabs. I have partnerships with you guys now. I'm sponsored by a major brewer company. So like a lot of people are paying attention to my content now, and I don't know if it's just like a domino effect or maybe it's just like the stars are aligned or something like that. So it's a little bit crazy because I don't think my content was totally different from like a few months ago. So yeah, it's just interesting. It's like very shocking to me that people are paying attention to me now.
Well, that's really great to hear that you're getting the eyes that you deserve at this point after all the work you've put in. But let's go back a little bit and start from the beginning, if a little bit. For a lot of people listening, becoming a Twitch partnered streamer is a huge goal of theirs. But let's get some context. When and how did you first start playing video games?
So I first started playing video games literally when I was a child, and I'm talking about like the original Nintendo, like N64, stuff like that. And then I wasn't like an avid like video game player. Like I would consider myself like an occasional video gamer back then. And I think like honestly the time I really started focusing on video games was, this is gonna sound really weird, like I was dating somebody at the time who broke up with me and I was very upset. So I came up with this weird master plan to learn how to play Call of Duty to somehow win him back, which didn't work. It did not work.
How did this play out? Did you just imagine seeing him in a lobby one day and just like getting him so bad that he was like, no, Gothixmodel!
Yes, exactly. And so like I ended up being like super good at Call of Duty. I mean, long story short, we never got back together, but like in my head, I thought it was gonna work.
You're just going to impress him so much with these skills.
Yeah, exactly. He don't care.
That's great. So you got in gaming at a little bit of a competitive nature already. How did your content creation begin? I see that your YouTube itself is nearly 10 years old at this point, but you took like a 7-year hiatus, and then for the last 3 years, it was a little soft until about a year ago. You seem to have gone really strong. What can you tell me about this journey from your first video to an active content creator?
Yeah, you did your research. So yeah, back when I originally started my YouTube channel, I was literally uploading a bunch of nonsense that had nothing to do with anything. Like literally I would take my camera to high school and record dumb videos with my friends, and like it was just like for my own personal enjoyment. Like I didn't really upload anything for an audience to consume. So what I did when I decided to start being strategic with what content I was producing in order to pursue streaming, I put a lot of my videos on private and only started uploading videos that people actually wanted to see. And so far it's been working out. Yeah, that's pretty much what I was doing, because literally before my YouTube was a dumpster fire.
I mean, I saw some of your oldest content, that music video that you made with the vampire teeth. That was pretty amazing. That was pretty funny.
I leave that on there just for pure, like, reminiscing of my initial production value that would go on to, like, making a video. Just to kind of reflect on how I've progressed as far as, like, putting videos and editing stuff like that.
Well, the progression's pretty clearly there. You don't just have that 10-year-old video. You have a couple that are just a little bit trickled out over the 5 years after that. You can even actually see kind of your first, or at least on your channel now, your first example of you sitting on a couch playing games, and then you have the next one where you're a little bit more specific, kind of actually streamer-esque style, and the next thing you know, you're kind of like full-blown, you still got some branding going on, your graphics are starting to mature. What happened in that period of time when you were like, no, that this is something I'm gonna do? What maybe that aha moment, basically?
I think the aha moment was when I realized that I wasn't fit for the corporate world.
You
I was like, I don't know, I've always been working at an office like my entire life, just like, you know, doing paperwork and stuff like that. And I realized that I was just so unhappy and it wasn't for me. And I knew that I could make people laugh. So I wanted to see if there was a way that I could possibly, you know, be able to pay my rent making people laugh without having to slowly die at an office.
So it really was an aha moment, like a ha 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 moment.
Yeah, it was literally an ah ha 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 moment.
Well, that's cool. That's a little bit about the reasons why you would want to do it. I can see it's infectious. But how did you actually know that you could do it? I see some of your first videos were only 100 to a couple hundred views on top of them. It wasn't for a while until you actually got to a 4,000 view, which I think was one of your first gaming sizes. You said you hid some content on private still that may kind of fill in some gaps, but was there a video that you made that just kind of took off beyond your expectations, that give you that feeling that people do resonate with your type of funny? Or
yeah, I can't remember the name of the title of the video specifically, but I know I did a video on like my experiences of like the few things that you need to succeed on Twitch. And back then I was only like 8 months streaming into it, but I felt like I had a lot of experience just during that time for other people who may have just started streaming. So I know with that video in particular, it had a lot of views. Like I think I hit like 1,000 views within a few days. And I think just getting the feedback from that of how people were appreciative of the advice that I was giving them, even though I wasn't partnered at the time, I wasn't like affiliated with any companies at the time, they still value the experience that I have. And so when I was looking at that, at the response, I was like, okay, so maybe what I have to say is actually valuable to some people. So I kind of continue with that route of like documenting my experiences with streaming and then putting in like my thoughts and tips that I think other people can use on their own journey.
No, that's really profound. That documenting your experience is a term that I hear mentioned a lot from Gary Vee fans. It seems to be a really good content creation process, and looking over your YouTube, it really does look like you have a variety of the type of content that you're creating, with of course a focus on the gaming streaming niche. I actually even watched your Logitech G-Hub video to learn how to stop fighting OBS and Streamlabs and Discord, and you're doing the stream setup. It's really annoying. And you know, that 10-minute video, 8-minute video, whatever that you made, actually was really informative. It reminds me a lot of our head of social media, Drew. He does a lot of kind of directive tutorial style, how to hack OBS to be a DJ style interface, and I see that you're doing a lot of that type of direct. You're using it, you're recording it, you get some good graphics and nice editing, and actually becomes tutorial-esque. But there's even reviews for hardware on top of this as well, mixed in with some of your gaming stuff. How did you kind of find and hone in that content type of yourself?
Yeah, like it's something that I'm still kind of, you know, experimenting with right now. I'm trying to see what videos are really something that my community would want on YouTube, because I want to put out more variety stuff. I don't want to specifically be known for the person that helps other streamers grow. So I'm kind of dabbling in like product reviews and unboxings now, because this is gonna sound really stupid, but like as much as like I have crazy effects on my channel and all this stuff, like I'm not very technical savvy. And so when I look for product reviews from other people, I want a very short, simplistic review that tells me, does this work? does this work like this? Does it look nice? Like just very simple,
Clear.
very clear. Like I don't really care about the mechanics within a device. Like I don't care about the response time or anything like that. I want to know, is it affordable? Does it work? Can I use it? That's it. So I'm trying to build content around that. So like streamers who maybe are just starting out can benefit from like review videos and understand like if a product is worth for them to actually invest in it, because I don't understand all that terminology myself. So
no, I feel you. My old roommate is one of the top tech guys for USF, and he is just so detail oriented on some of the specs. I'm like, yeah, cool. Will it do what I need it to do? You know, like it's just you have to distill it down so much, and it sounds like you're filling out a niche of the non-technical streamer now that it's saturated to a point where it's kind of gone beyond that first niche hobbyist kind of tinkering with hardware, moving into the actual application of the technology more so. So it definitely seems that you've got a good spot there. But with that, you do still game when you stream. A lot of your content, though, still comes across the just chatting category. You do integrate a lot in between it. It's very interactive. You have skits as well. But the type of content you have isn't necessarily what a lot of people would traditionally think of as a traditional Twitch type streamer. How do you think that the type of content that you're producing changes the way that you interact with the platform as compared to someone like an esports pro?
Yeah, definitely. Like I am not very good at video games, like and I don't claim to be at all.
Except Call of Duty.
Except Call of Duty. But like I know that I have good conversation. I can keep conversation going. I can make people laugh, and I wanted to really emphasize that in my channel. And I think a lot of streamers get too caught up on the fact of like, am I good at this game? People want to see my stats. You know, I have to pay attention to the game, and I do the complete opposite. I give like gaming maybe 40-30% of my actual content on Twitch. The rest is interaction, because at the end of the day, if I'm not interacting with my channel, if I was neglecting people in my community, I wouldn't have a community to begin with. So they deserve the respect and the attention that I am giving them, whether it's like interactive scenes or it's just chatting or we're doing like a Q&A or something like that. I'd always prefer to do that than just being so hyper focused on a video game.
How do you find yourself testing out these types of contents through retention rates and things like that? Are you gauging it and testing it, or are you kind of just producing things that you feel like you know will resonate? Like, are you kind of trying to handpick it, or what's going on?
Yeah. I mean, actually, like, before I gained some traction with my channel, I was literally stuck in this plateau where I couldn't get past 10 concurrent viewers, and I was stuck there for like 8 months. It was terrible. So I told myself that I was going to try and try to experiment with different concepts very frequently on my channel, look at my stats and see what content is actually sticking with people. So before, I was playing lots of competitive games like Overwatch. I always bring that up. It's one of my favorite video games. And I was playing Overwatch, and I would rewatch my VODs. I would see that I was like so hyper focused on the screen, not paying attention to anybody in the chat, or sometimes I would use nobody being in the chat as an excuse for me to not keep constant dialogue going. So I decided early on I wanted to try emphasize more community interaction and more either community-based games like party games or single player games. That way I don't have to worry about, you know, dying in a game or losing a match or anything like that. I can't use that as a crutch. And I still kind of do that now with like when I introduce new like scenes or new features on my stream. I'll try it out for a few days. I'll look at my stats. I'll see, is the community liking it? I'll look on social media. Are people retweeting the videos or clips from the stream? If they're not, then that's an indication they probably don't like it all that much. But like, for example, when I introduced, I do this skit where people call me on a customer service line.
I've seen this.
They call me through Discord, and we just have like straight like, you know, improv. And usually at the end of those streams, I get a lot of retweets for my clips, but some other scenes people don't care that much. So that's a good way that I can tell.
Interesting. Now, you called out something really important as far as the ability to interact with your community based on the type of game that you're streaming. I've heard a lot of the competitive players will have issues with this angle, and even so, the habits that they deride from trying to keep up with chat ends up hurting their competitive nature. So it sounds like your model itself has been designed to lean into the nature of Twitch itself, the engagement. part of it. But in the end, it sounds like you're doing some consistent testing as well to be able to hone it in. But in the end of the day, this is a business, right? It isn't necessarily just about the entertainment portion of it. It's the bounty program that they have. It's the subtle natures of how a business is formed in this kind of streaming nature. You need to be able to continue progress without getting without getting into specifics of details of your income or anything like that. What can you discuss with us about the business of streaming? Like how has the environment of donations to subs, to partnerships, to other income like swag, and how has this become part of your world, and how do you kind of find yourself exploring it and testing things?
Yeah, like I'm still relatively new to all of this, but so far I've realized that being a full-time streamer, like at least in my case, it's better to kind of brainstorm on ideas that I'd be able to use to supplement in lieu of actual like financial gain. Like for example, if I'm working with a company, I don't necessarily have to say, "Hey, can you give me $1,000 a month so I can promote your product?" Which is kind of like unreasonable. So I have to come up with ways that I'll be able to make money and not worry about like my sub count decreasing or not getting donations and stuff like that. Which is something that I'm a little bit struggling with. Like sometimes when I see my sub count go down, I freak out, but then I realize I have other avenues to make money. Like I have a coaching business where I coach other streamers. I'm thinking about maybe getting back into freelancing. I'm not sure yet. But like, and so I think when people try to really think of what other value can they offer aside from just streaming, I think that's a good cushion that they can have when they decide to go into this full time. And you know, like you mentioned, like swag, like I'm getting some flat swag from different companies, or even if it's like exchange for like promotion. If it's a really huge company and they have a really big following on Twitter, like even this right now, like having this podcast with you, it's helping me because it's helping getting my name further out there, which I think a lot of people may underestimate. People think I want that immediate paycheck for something without thinking of the long-term effects. Maybe I should try to network, do a podcast here and there, make an appearance, and then like wait for that slow build-up.
With that, though, you kind of touched on some things that you've been doing yourself there as far as going to these events and networking. I know that you went to TwitchCon in 2017. You made it to 2018 as well. I saw you in a picture streaming there. That's pretty exciting for you. Do you have plans to go to 2019 as well?
Yeah, I actually only went to 2018.
Oh, really?
That was my first time going. Yeah, so my second time is going to be 2019. Super excited to go. I think I learned a lot from the first experience. I'm still very like socially awkward in public. I'm trying to get out of my shell. So at least the first time I went was a little bit of like it was like a test. So now I know what more to expect, and it's more of like a networking thing and not like just like a belligerent party, which I saw like a lot of streamers utilizing it for that. I mean, that's cool, but like I want to network and make connections and meet people.
Yeah, that makes sense. Did you go there with the intent of doing that professionally, or just as kind of like a test for yourself without kind of too much reaching out and getting involved yet?
Yeah, like I wanted to, so my plan is like, because I was asked by a few friends if I was going to TwitchCon, and I said at the time I would only buy a ticket if I had 1,000 followers, and at the time I didn't, because I don't know, if I'm gonna do something, it has to be financially worth it for me. So that's a lot of money because I'm in Rhode Island and have to fly all the way to California. That's a big investment. So I ended up hitting that goal. I went there and I had a bunch of business cards. I was very socially awkward. I'm telling you, like I would literally just leave my business cards on random tables instead of handing it to people because I was so shy.
Subtle.
But at least I learned from my experience and I was able to make that first step, which I couldn't say I would be able to do, you know, if you asked me a few years ago.
But even though it was your first time and you say you have these subtle shynesses, you still were able to kind of go there in a way that a streamer would hope to go there. Did you have the opportunity to interact with your community, or did the streaming opportunity while you were there teach you anything?
Yeah, so I did get a chance to meet with people in my community. I was a little bit like shocked, and even weeks after TwitchCon, I was still talking about this because of how sobering it felt for people to shout my name across the room and run up and want to take a picture with me, that is insane to think about. And I'm not used to that. Like who is this random person? Hello, why do you like me? So
Yeah.
it's literally instances like that where I'm just like, wow, I am having an impact on the content that I'm putting out, and it's a nice feeling.
And how does that community itself kind of impact what you do and how you do it? You have a very distinct style, very distinct personality. Do you find yourself changing it at all, or maybe even offending some people because you won't change it at all?
I know my content is very obnoxious sometimes, and you know what, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but to be honest, is I think there's a market for everything, and I always say, don't be afraid of attracting your own tribe, and I think a lot of people are afraid of, loosening up or acting how they want to act on stream because they're afraid of losing community members, not knowing that you're going to recycle through community members very frequently. People get bored. I found out the other day somebody stopped watching me because my channel is getting too big. Like, I didn't even know that was a concern.
Wow.
But it is. So like, I think people just need to just realize that when you're on Twitch, you can be whoever you want to be and act however you want to act within terms of service, of course. And not try to be so focused on losing people as like a number, because you're gonna attract people that love your content at the end of the day.
Mm. With most personalities like yourself, they have a very strong character, and with it comes character traits that are credits to success. What about yourself do you think is the trait that has helped you become most successful in this field?
I think my character trait is my ability to think on the spot to negative reactions. So I usually get a lot of trolls in my channel, and sometimes I'll flip that content into like YouTube compilations of me interacting with these trolls, because normal society tells us to just block them and move on, but I do the opposite. And then the other thing is that how very uncensored and upfront I am. I think a lot of people aren't used to that. People are used to like sugarcoating things and expecting people to be, I guess, more professional. Not that I'm saying I'm not professional, but I'm very like I'm very abrasive sometimes. But I'd rather not waste anyone's time when I'm talking with them. I want to cut to the chase and tell them how I feel.
Well, in a community filled with trollish type behavior, that's got to be something they respond to pretty well, though. To be able to have that confidence within you and to battle back. I mean, trolls are troll because they want that interaction, right? To turn it into something that's meme level and to leverage it as part of your experience kind of becomes pretty genius when it's an inevitability along the road, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like, especially like when I first started streaming, with like literally within the first month, I had a really bad experience with a troll. Like, he kept revisiting my channel every day. He kept rejoining my Discord under different usernames. Like, it was just pure harassment. And at that point, I really did consider stop streaming, because what's the point? Like, I didn't sign up for this to just be harassed and stalked every day. And so, like, I took a break from streaming. I reevaluated how I reacted to it. And that's the only thing you can do, is figure out how to react in that situation. And I decided to turn it into comedy, make it a part of my show instead of being visibly upset, because that's what they want to see at the end of the day.
Absolutely. There's a lot of talk. There's a lot of talk about this kind of niche, this state of streaming itself when it comes to this topic about trolling people who are actively streaming, whether or not they're male or female or what they're doing at that time. It becomes a little bit of vitrolic at times. With this in mind, kind of what is your opinion on the current state of streaming, and kind of how can we adapt potentially to this type of scenario?
Well, the current state of streaming, at least from what I see, and I know that it's not a fact for everybody, but I think that streaming you have to have very, very thick skin to even consider going on this journey. And from what I see, I think there's a lot of learning that us as a community have to still do. Like, for example, it was very disheartening for me when I saw, like, last month, Twitch advertised that they were having like a Black History Month, and the amount of trolling that I saw in the comments, it was just pure disgusting. Like, these are people that use the platform, and they could not, choose to act civilized in a post such as a topic like that. And at the end of this month, I'm going to be on the front page for Women's History Month, and it's literally the same exact thing. It's the same type of trolling, sexism. It's terrible. And this is supposed to be an interactive community where we embrace diversity and tolerance and stuff like that. And sometimes it feels like it's totally the opposite. So I hope that we can kind of restructure our thoughts on interacting with people that may be different from us or look different from us, which is something that I'm personally trying to pursue. Like I want to advocate for that difference on this platform. And I also want to restructure the way that streamers think, because I think a lot of streamers have this idea to do the same thing that everyone's doing. Like for example, I use this example a lot. It's like nutrition, for example. I think a lot of streamers um are a little bit unhealthy with their habits when they're streaming. Like, I'll see setups with like a 10 stacks of like energy drinks next to them and so, like, where's the water? Like, you're streaming for 12 hours, where is the water?
Yeah.
So it's little things like that. Like, I don't understand how we got to that point, but I want to try to flip it.
Mm. Do you find that your opportunity with the Twitch Women's Month, do you find yourself as an ambassador having an opportunity to kind of have a larger voice in this conversation now?
Yeah, I really do think I do have a lot, especially because like I am not a cookie cutter streamer. I'm not what you would expect. Like if you say the term girl gamer, which I hate, like I don't think I come up in the dictionary. Um and so I think just because I'm a little bit more outspoken, I'm wild, I'm kind of, I go against the grain with things. I think it would open up a lot of people's eyes to seeing what other possibilities there are for women that are on this platform, which I think a lot of people have this idea in their head of like, what is a female streamer, and I want to break that.
Mm. What is a female streamer to you?
Female streamer to me is just a streamer. That's just me. But
Good answer.
people have their own, people have their own definitions, and I don't know why.
Mm. As a Twitch partnered streamer, I'm sure you have faith in this platform and what you're doing, but what do you kind of see on the horizon that's kind of coming?
As far as like the Twitch platform?
Yeah, as the Twitch platform, or maybe streaming as a whole, there's a lot of other different platforms that are kind of coming into this field, and I know that as a partner, you have obligations to keep unique content onto Twitch for a couple of days from your first stream. How does the idea of these other platforms, or how they're kind of impacting Twitch itself, kind of developing for you, and where do you potentially see that moving? Maybe new features being added, or popularity shifts, or something like that.
Yeah, I think that at least in from my point of view, I think Twitch, it has like an obligation now to start being very strategic of who they showcase on their platform and who they choose to promote, and I guess like the slang term is like be woke. So I think like Twitch is trying to be woke now, which is a good thing, because I think that especially with all the other platforms that are out there that people could choose to stream on, Twitch being like the big dog, they have an obligation to make sure that their platform is always number one in this like competitive field. So I do think that they need to be a little bit more strategic of like who they feature and what they do and what features they have, and really start listening to the community of what things they want to see new on this platform. But I mean, I personally don't think that Twitch is close to getting caught up by another platform. I think the platform itself is just so massive right now. But it is something to always think about. Like something could always change the game. Like look at Fortnite and Apex. Like I'm looking at them and it's crazy. I like how somebody just pops up and then like just dominates the other one very quickly. And so I think Twitch knows that they need to start hustling to kind of figure out what they want to be known for going forward.
Mm. Definitely very aware. Nice feedback. Thank you. You have a lot of amazing tutorials. A lot of them go into you have a lot of amazing tutorials. We're going to link in the video notes. But if I had to ask you for one pro tip, what advice could you give someone trying to become a partnered streamer like you have?
Enjoy the ride. And don't be so focused on like the material aspects of streaming. If you are, your content's gonna differ. Like I got denied partnership twice. And by the second time I was like, you know what, whatever. I'm not even gonna bother. So I just started having more fun and just like being there in the moment with my community. And then I ended up getting it on the third time when I did decide I wanted to reapply. And I think a lot of people get too focused on numbers, get too focused on like reaching that goal, and then it's a little bit mentally taxing on yourself to constantly feel defeated when you're trying to obtain that goal. So it's better to literally just go with the flow. It's kind of like the same advice that I give people when they're single and they're looking for a relationship. I usually say, don't look for a relationship, don't look for it.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, it'll come around. You
Mm-hmm.
know?
Ironically, you find what you don't look for.
Exactly.
That's great. Well, over the time that you've been a streamer, you've had these highs, like becoming a Twitch partner recently and making it to TwitchCon and having that moment. But what has been your favorite accomplishment doing what you do?
My favorite accomplishment, to be honest, I think it was when I got partnered. Because I wasn't expecting it, and the Twitch staff rated me while I was streaming, and we were in the middle of something so stupid. We were we were having a game show with my community, and it was just ridiculous. So for them to rate us during that stupid moment, it just made it into such a memorable video. Yeah, I even like to this day I'm still rewatching the video just because it's so hilarious looking at my like reaction when I realized that they were in there to grant me partnership. I think that was just like it was just an amazing experience having everybody that I've been streaming with for so long being in the chat and you know being excited that people were there for the partnership. I don't know. I think that right there was just like the point, the highlight so far, at least for 2019.
That's really cool because it pairs so well with what you just said about enjoy the ride. It almost seems like it happened in such an innocuous moment. It seems like these you're just kind of doing what you're doing, and a lot of people would imagine that there's these big moments, these singular events. You had a knockout stream, but it's just the act of doing it consistently. One day during one of your normal streams, it just everything changed. That's
Yep,
pretty. That's pretty
exactly.
exciting to have. I wish I could have been there and seen that for it. I'm sure that's Twitch clipped, right?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I'm sure that's been clipped on Twitch, right?
Oh, I actually uploaded it to YouTube.
Okay, we'll link it, make sure everyone can watch the excitement along the way. Over the years, there are bound to be things that don't go the way that you hoped, though. If you don't mind sharing, what has been your biggest or most memorable failure or learning experience in your path as an online personality?
As far as right now, and it's something that I'm struggling with, is finding that balance of being my own boss and then also nurturing my in real life relationships, like relationships with my family, my boyfriend, my personal friends. I'm having this trouble figuring out at what point during the day do I stop working and when can I actually enjoy a weekend? Because since I'm my own boss, I have to make sure that I'm able to, you know, pay my rent. And during the weekend, like if, for example, I sign on my computer and I see that my sub count dropped a little bit, I freak out.
Mm.
And so, like, I'm not able to live there in the moment, go to the movies, hang out with people in my actual life because I'm too worried about Monday rolling around and trying to hustle to make back that income because I'm so dedicated to this that I've already promised myself I'm not going to go back to the office. So,
Mm.
but as far as I know, that is something I constantly hear from people that have made the transition to full-time broadcasting is they're always anxious about finances and they don't know when to just give themselves a break.
How do you find yourself learning techniques to handle this? As an entrepreneur, there's a lot of days like that as well. Up days, down days, things that deals, fires. They're always going on. But there's always these videos or classes or books and things that you kind of read and talk, or friends you talk to. How have you managed to find the knowledge needed to be able to handle these types of
Mhm.
swings?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, sometimes I research other streamers that are kind of going through the same thing, and I even reach out to them and ask them for advice on this topic. And I also like I read books, I listen to podcasts, and I also have to just trust the process. You know, some days, to be honest, when I start to freak out, it's usually at the beginning of the month when subs drop off. And
Mm.
I always, from I've been doing this full time for 3 months, and I always at the beginning of the month freak out not allowing myself to calm down and acknowledge the fact that we still have 3 weeks into the month. So, so I think that I just need to just like learn to chill, breathe
Mm.
a little bit. I've even gone as far as literally putting parental controls on my phone, so after a certain time in the day, it doesn't allow me to use Twitter or Instagram. And I know that that's extreme, but sometimes I feel like it's needed, at least for me, because I'm so passionate about doing good work and being innovative so people don't forget about me.
You gotta hustle to make it happen. It sounds like you're definitely listening to the right people and following the right path on that. I really like what you say and how you're going about doing this. It's very honest. It's very clear. You've done a great job today. I really appreciate you stopping by and talking with us. It's been a lot of fun to get to know you a little bit and share you with our community. Real quick, everyone who's listening or watching, go ahead and put in your questions in the chat. We're going to have time to accept 2 or 3 questions if you want, and we'll try to find something from the community. I'm going to ask one more question, and then we'll go look at Twitch chat and see if we can find someone there. The last question that we typically like to ask people is a little bit of a softball. In this community, we interact with so many different things, right? Whether it's that pair of headphones that has just the right dynamic range, or the mechanic keyboard that just has the perfect switch. Gamers typically have that certain peripheral what they're just disproportionately passionate about. So it doesn't have to be your OPSEAT, but what's your favorite peripheral?
Ooh, it's gonna have to be this bad boy right here, my Stream Deck.
Ooh. Yes.
This was literally the game changer for me. So part of my whole comedic value is being able to be abrupt and in people's faces and shake them up. So my ability to literally do like sleight of hand and change different scenes, this was a game changer for me. Because there's one thing that kind of annoys me is when like I go to, let's say if I raid another streamer, right? And they have something set up that they want to show the new viewers. And I just see them slowly clicking and trying to find the right scene, and it just takes too long. So for me, I like to do things literally in like the split millisecond and make that change so people are constantly stimulated. And it's almost similar to a lot of like what YouTubers do. YouTubers do like jump cuts on their video where they abruptly change the scene and add different effects like very frequently, and it constantly keeps your brains stimulated. So I went for that same logic. But that has definitely been the game changer for my channel.
Very nice. Yeah, no, I hear so many people talking about the Elgato series themselves. They have so many amazing pieces that are critical to the environment, but none more effective than the hotkey block, of course. Yeah, no, I wish I had one. I'm over here using my F1 keys like a noob. I'm running out of space, you know.
You gotta upgrade.
I gotta get those upgrades. Maybe one time I'm a Twitch partner, maybe I could get there. So we've had a couple questions from the community. We're gonna ask a couple of them now. It seems Dino Cutie Butt is got some decent questions. One of them is about a relationship kind of balance a little bit with streaming. So how do you get your partner to be a bit more understanding of streaming? I'm a little too to work anyways, and I just wish my husband would not be mad that I'm busy at the computer and such. I do have certain times where I'm networking/working, but kind of how do you balance that relationship requirements with the requirement to stream?
Yeah, you need to first have a conversation with them. So what I did with my boyfriend is I literally had this conversation before I even hit the live button and said, this looks like something I want to pursue. So these are the commitments that I need to do for myself, and here's the things that I need to compromise with. And one of the things that I had to compromise with was how often and how long I needed to be on the computer doing stuff post-production or preparing for a stream and stuff like that. It was a little rocky at first, I'm not gonna lie. My boyfriend even said he wasn't used to exactly how much time I would put into my channel. I would come to bed like 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes. He wasn't used to some of the little racy comments that I would get from the opposite sex in my channel. So he wasn't used to that type of attention. But as time progressed, he got a little bit more he opened up a little bit more to the idea, but it's going to take time, but you need to have that open line of communication with them. And personally with me, now I've gotten to a point where me and my boyfriend are trying to collaborate on things together. So we want to do this together now. And maybe that's something that you can bring your husband or your boyfriend into. Like maybe he could help you with something to alleviate so much time that you're on the computer or whatever. So maybe have a discussion of how you guys can collaborate and make it like a bonding experience. It doesn't have to be work as long as you guys are together and doing something that you both love. So who knows?
No, it's a great point that you have there about trying to bring them within it in some way that's comfortable to them, especially in a stream like yours where it isn't necessarily a skill-based. There's skill-based gaming. There's more opportunity to bring in somebody in and kind of enjoy the environment. I kind of like how your stream has been set up organically to have that organic opportunities. if able. My girlfriend as well is starting to stream soon, and she has a similar idea. Pairing together also just gives a good banter. It's cute. You get clipped.
Yeah.
You know, you review it later. Why not, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. I've seen a lot of people as well who have family try to bring their kids in as well, and sometimes the kids get more popular than the parents are. It's kind of funny just to see how people bring their family into the fold. Good luck. I mean, I know the strength of the time it took to create the companies that we have. Some people just don't understand. Was there ever a moment where you kind of found yourself kind of butting heads against it? Was there something that maybe I don't want to get too personal. I apologize in advance. But was there ever any one thing that was kind of like maybe this was something that we had to adjust?
Yeah, I think like for example, in terms of like specifically, we were talking about this the other day, how there was one stream where I had Santa on my stream. Like I had a friend dress up as Santa Claus, and people could write letters to Santa Claus asking Santa for a gift. And one of the letters, somebody used an inappropriate term to describe me, and I laughed at it. Like basically, the guy was insinuating he would like me for Christmas, and so I was laughing about it, and Santa just continued to read the letter, and in the background you can hear my boyfriend like scream just like in anger. And so that was one of the instances where we needed to figure out how we were going to make this work, because he wasn't used to that interaction from an outside man. And also the way that I reacted, I think, said a lot about the situation, because I kind of shrugged it off instead of, you know, cussing the other person out, telling them to leave my channel, you know what I mean? So I had to figure out exactly how would I address that unwanted flirtatious nature from people, knowing that I have a boyfriend, without acting belligerent and trying to just push my community away, you know? Like, I like banter, but I understand his point of view too, and so that was something that we had to work towards, and I think I've mastered it now. When somebody says something like, oh, you know, you're sexy, I just kind of like ignore it, or just say, thanks, I'll tell my boyfriend. Or, you know what, I'll just like, I'll brush it off very quickly, and usually that's kind of helped for me now.
Nice. Well, way to handle it organically. I can only imagine what it would have been like to be on stream and just hear your boyfriend start yelling angry in the background, like, oh no, I gotta deal with this. I hear the tone. I know.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh man, I can only imagine. I bet that's clipped too somewhere.
Oh, it is.
Bosch Merchant has a question for us. What's been the single greatest educational resource for you regarding streaming? A particular book, podcast, or another streamer?
Let's see. It's funny, like, I watched a lot of streamers before I actually hit the live button, and I kind of studied how they went about things, and it's funny because now these people actually, like, hang out with me when I'm live, so it's a little bit strange. But like one streamer that I always watch, I am Brandon TV. He had a bunch of tutorials on how to stream. I also watch Daniel the Demon because his aesthetic fits mine a lot. And so I also, another streamer that I watch, Hey Shady Lady, she talks a lot about how to get your community to talk when nobody's there, or how to keep dialogue always going when nobody's actually interacting. So those were the first instances where I would research other streamers and listen to their advice and see how I can implement that into my channel. And then the other thing that I always that I knew I had to tackle was being able to have thick skin, because of just the nature of being a content creator. So one book, I won't say the whole name, but there's something called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Bleep.
Oh, I think I heard that one.
and that book is so powerful if you are struggling with getting trolls or getting negative criticism. That book is really an eye-opener of how to deal with that, because you're going to have to learn how to figure out how to deal with that anyway, if this is something you really want to do long term.
No, I hear that a book offered and recommended a lot to entrepreneurs as well. It's a really great way to kind of define a harder mindset, or not a harder, but a firmer mindset when it comes to these uncontrollable trolls, I guess. Yeah. So another question we got from Community Controller. When you mentioned that you are always checking what types of content sticks or doesn't stick with your community, when you're trying to improve your stream, what have you found anything that almost always has a positive influence? Same for the opposite. Does anything almost never stick too well?
The one thing that is always sticking is my personal experience about streaming. So sometimes I would rant about like things I noticed within the streaming community, or discussions about like how to improve your channel and stuff. That type of stuff always sticks. Also, dialogue regarding how depressed I was when I worked in customer service, that also sticks because it's so relatable to a lot of people. So like basically just like real life experiences, any type of communication about that specifically always sticks. The things that don't stick, I would say where it's whenever I'm playing a game that I'm too focused on. Once I start taking the focus away from my channel, that doesn't stick. People leave the channel. I see my view count drop. That's the one thing that I notice. I can't even if I wanted to do competitive gaming, I couldn't just because of the nature of how I built my community. I wouldn't want to go backwards.
No, I've heard a lot of people refer to that as setting expectations for your stream. As long as you fall within expectations, you can continue to grow. But if your expectation shifts, i.e. your communication because you're too hard into the game, they're not there for that, basically.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Last question, and then we're going to have to get going. You've done an amazing job, by the way. It's TMNT Mom. When you feel down or running low, what motivates you to keep going? Like, what powers you back up? Do you ever get to a point you feel like giving up?
Yeah, definitely. There are some times that I've felt like that, especially early on. The one thing that always got me motivated was going on social media and looking. I would literally Google myself. It sounds so stupid. I would literally Google myself and see what nice things people are saying about my channel. You know, even if they're not saying it about me directly, sometimes people will talk about your channel through other like mediums. Like I found myself the other day on Reddit. And people were talking about my content and how it makes them happy and makes them feel better if they're having a bad day. And when I read stuff like that and I know I'm having a positive impact, you know, I'm bringing somebody's day around, that motivates me to keep going. Because if I wasn't streaming and they were having a bad day, what would happen if I didn't show up? They're just going to continue to be miserable. I can't let that happen. So that's something that I always do. If you notice that you're getting like good feedback from somebody tweets you, somebody sends you a message, take a screenshot of that, put it in your phone, keep it on standby, and just reference that later when you're feeling down.
So small references along the way to keep yourself going, not necessarily one big technique, just a lot of maintenance and reminders of gratitude, basically.
Exactly. Yep.
Well, great advice. Just the same. Nice point to end it on. You know, the Gothic Model, thank you so much for joining us. We've really had a great time interviewing you. It seems that everyone's liked and asked a lot of questions, and it's been really nice to learn from you. The whole point of this podcast is to try to help others become as successful as you have yourself become. And I think you've given a lot of good information, and your YouTube channel, which we'll link in the description, also has a lot of great videos. I encourage everyone to go listen to it and watch what you got. But if you could leave everyone real quick with maybe just the information about your stream, where they can come find more, and maybe where they can come see you next.
Yeah, definitely. So I stream Mondays through Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard. It's at Gothixmodel, and you can find me on most social media sites, Snapchat, YouTube, Twitter, wherever under the same name. I think that's it.
Great. All right, well, that's it for today. Thank you again. I can't thank you enough. This will actually be kind of compiled, turn into a really awesome montage, and then we'll post it on a Friday about 2 weeks from now, and then everyone will be able to come back and hear the podcast and stuff like that. So please, I hope you share the good words of what you keep doing. Don't stop. This is really fun to see going.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Goodbye.